So, have you ever really thought about it? Could the US just, take out a foreign leader? Well, a viral video did more than just think about it. It laid out this incredibly detailed, almost minute-by-minute blueprint for a hypothetical special ops mission. Today, we're going to break that story down, from the very first move to the global fallout.
And this is really the core question, isn't it? It's a shocking idea. But the source video we're looking at doesn't just toss the question out there. Oh no. It actually walks you through every single step, creating this fictional, but kind of disturbingly plausible, chain of events.
The story drops us right into the action, and not in the past, but in the near future, January 3rd, 2026. Setting a specific date like that, it makes a fictional story feel way more urgent, almost like you're reading a headline from tomorrow's news.
Okay, so the scene is set. We're in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. But here's the thing, the entire city is dark. And this massive power outage, it's no accident. According to the source, this is the very first calculated move in a much bigger, much more secret operation.
And of course, every top-secret mission needs a cool codename, right? This one gets dubbed Operation Absolute Resolve. It's a small detail, but man, it makes this whole hypothetical scenario feel chillingly authentic, like something you'd find in a recently declassified file.
All right, so how would an operation like this actually unfold? Let's dig into the source's step-by-step breakdown of the raid itself, from the moment they breach the city to the final capture.
The source really paints a picture of this perfectly timed, multi-pronged assault. It all kicks off with a cyber attack that plunges the city into total chaos. Next, airstrikes come in and take out the country's eyes and ears, all its radar and air defenses. Then, under the cover of all that darkness and confusion, stealth helicopters come screaming in, flying just 100 feet over the ocean to stay hidden, and drop off Delta Force commandos. And the capture itself, shockingly fast. We're talking less than 5 minutes. It's portrayed as this incredibly clinical display of overwhelming force.
So how is an event like this seen by those watching from afar? Well, the source includes this really striking quote attributed to Donald Trump. I watched it literally like I was watching a TV show. It highlights this surreal sense of detachment, framing a real-world military operation as if it were just another piece of entertainment. Now, obviously, a shocking military action like this needs a good public story. You can't just do it. So how would it be justified to the world? The source dives into what it claims would be the official public-facing narrative.
And here you can really see the two competing stories side by side. The official story, right? It's all about justice. It's about fighting narco-terrorism, stopping drug trafficking, and restoring democracy. But the source material argues that the real motives are, well, a lot more cynical. Control over oil, huge corporate profits, and just raw geopolitical power.
To make the whole thing look legitimate, the source explains there would be a formal indictment. And the charges are serious, narco-terrorism, shipping massive amounts of cocaine, weapons violations. This gives them the legal framework, that law enforcement angle, to justify a full-on military raid. So that's the official story they'd sell to the public. But the source argues it's just a cover for the real motivation. According to its narrative, this operation isn't about justice at all. Nope, it's about oil.
And here it is. This is the number at the absolute heart of the source's entire argument, 303 billion. That's the estimated number of barrels of proven crude oil reserves sitting under Venezuela, and the source presents this number as the real reason for the whole operation.
And just to put that number into perspective, check this out. The source's data shows Venezuela's reserves are even bigger than Saudi Arabia's. And then look way down at the end. That's the United States. It's not even in the same league. The argument here becomes crystal clear. Venezuela is the single biggest prize on the entire global energy map. The relationship wasn't always this bad. The video points out that back in the 60s, the two countries were close allies. But the real turning point, according to this timeline, was nationalization. When Venezuela took control of its own oil, first by creating its own state company, and then fully under Chavez, well, that's when the relationship went sour. And that's when the sanctions started.
And this is where the perspective really shifts. The source uses another quote to argue that from a certain American point of view, Venezuela nationalizing its own oil wasn't seen as an act of sovereignty. No, it was framed as theft. This idea is presented as the ultimate proof of the oil motive.
An operation like this wouldn't happen in a vacuum, right? The source argues it would send absolute shockwaves across the globe, challenging the very foundations of international law. So what would that fallout actually look like? Beyond all the military and political motives, there's this one crucial final question. Would an operation like this even be legal?
According to the source material we're examining, the answer is a clear, unambiguous no.
According to the video's analysis, the whole thing would be illegal on two fronts. Domestically, it would violate the U.S. Constitution because it bypasses Congress's authority to declare war. And internationally, it's a direct violation of the UN Charter, the big rule that says you can't just use military force against another sovereign nation.
The source claims the global backlash would be swift and severe. It details this widespread condemnation, and not just from rivals like Russia and China, but even from allies in Latin America and Europe. The UN Secretary General is cited as calling it a clear violation of international law, which would effectively isolate the U.S. on the world stage.
And all of this brings us to the final, lingering question that the source material really leaves you with. It suggests that this hypothetical operation isn't just about Venezuela. It's about a world order where maybe power, not law, is the ultimate authority. And it leaves us all to wonder, when the most powerful nations write the rules, do the rules still apply to them?